know.
What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon. I'm back at you. Another edition of Wandavision Roundtable. Maybe that's what we should call it. Or just Marvel Roundtable. We'll think of a name. But as always, we got the same usual suspects in here. Rocking with us on the top is Alicia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm less sad than I was yesterday when I watched it 3 times, but I'm ready to do this.
That's what's up. And as always, rocking with me, my brother, holding down the trigger, my man, Phil the Issues Guy. What's going on?
I'm doing well, excited to be here, and excited to talk about this episode, even though it didn't a different kind of episode than we've had almost every episode you could say that about, but this is sort of bringing it all together kind of episode, very emotional. But I am very excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it was a very emotional episode, and some people liked it, some people didn't, but let's get right to it. What up to everybody in the chat? Join us. We see Mara's up in the building. Jen S is up in the building. Curtis Moore is in the building. Muhammad, my brother from another mother, is up in this piece rocking with us. John Taylor's up in here. Got a bunch of people rocking with us. Let's get right into it. So, how did you feel about the episode as a whole? Did you enjoy the episode or not? What's Alicia? What's going on?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed it once I cried pretty hard throughout the episode, and I was just telling Tony before we started airing that to me, if I can emote that viscerally from watching art, it's good art. But also, this episode really, it's really wrapping things up that even from the very beginning when we were watching 1950s Housewife and 1960s Housewife, it's like, oh, this is great. This is actually really fucking sad. Like everything is making sense. And it's a fucking masterpiece. Like this episode is just wrapping everything up so nicely. So it was a good one.
I'm sort of similar with that. Like I very much love this episode. Maybe from a visual watching standpoint, it wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't supposed to be. I think what's great about an episode like this, and you get episodes like this in mystery type series, whether it be something like Lost or Westworld, which are the two that pop in my mind, a moment where you get a lot of information, like an info dump of learning answers to secrets you've been building up all season. Did everything that the three of us or everyone writing and talking about this series get everything right? No, you got a handful of things right, and other things were different perspectives you didn't think about. But the point, and kind of what Alicia was saying too, it was a great episode. And even if it isn't what you necessarily want it to be always, and we're going to get into each one of those points, it's still awesome. And I think that's what's important with shows like this that build up mysteries and build up discussions. Sometimes they build them up and then you get the answers and it's like, oh, that's even less creative than I was thinking of. And sometimes it's even more, or not more interesting, just different. And you're like, oh, okay. And I feel like this episode was a lot of that, like, oh, okay. And it didn't satisfy everything in the sense of like, I wanted, this season, I wanted Reed Richards to show up. I wanted this, I wanted that, but it's still satisfied me, if that makes sense. It still made me happy with getting answers to everything, and it sort of started to wrap things up and also set up the finale really well with the characters we didn't see. We didn't see any Rambo. We didn't see any Agent Chow. We didn't see any Quicksilver in this episode either. We just talked about him. So yeah, I'm excited going into the finale.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to be the one to say something that people probably aren't going to like. I did not like this episode. I mean, in all honesty, to me, when I look at this show as a whole, this is a show that is under a half an hour when you look at when it ends every week. Maybe 25 minutes, 22 minutes an episode if you get it, where you actually get some meat of it and everything. And there's only 9 episodes. This felt like a filler episode to me. If it was an hour-long series and there were 10 episodes, I would give them a pass on the filler episode. This was tying up stuff I really didn't need to know. Like, in all honesty, you could have did the whole dialogue with her and her brother. You didn't have to spend that much time with the DVDs and everything. You didn't have to go through all that. You could have wrapped that up within 5 minutes and moved on and got to the meat of this episode. But it was a filler episode to me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every episode. But I'm saying what I truly want is not a filler episode, especially the last 2 episodes. I would want them to go balls to the wall. So let's start off right in the beginning with this. Did you like the theme of her of learning of how magic works in the MCU and the runes, and you can't cast here and only a witch could do it? How did you feel about the way that they presented that?
There were, first of all, I think that Han is just a Catherine Han, that's her name. She is phenomenal. She's knocking it out of the park. There were very few moments, maybe like 15 seconds at a time, where I'm like, this is getting a little campy. Like when she's got her arms up in the air and she's like, power. Reminded me a little too much of that one chick from the Trump rally that's like, the best is yet to come. But I mean, that beginning, yeah, but that beginning intro, I have so many questions, and that's why I think that Agatha is going to be a character in the MCU well beyond WandaVision, or at least the shit she's fucking with is going to go well beyond. I do get we're going to put our Mephisto hats on right now, but I do think that whatever it was she was messing with, it really upset her coven. It probably had something to do with Mephisto, so I kind of wonder if she's not under some sort of binding to Mephisto. That was it was, to me, the actual scenes in the basement didn't do it as much to me. It was a little bit too much exposition. Like, I needed that exposition. It just wasn't executed as well as I would have liked. But that intro in Salem was phenomenal. Like, it just opened up so many questions to me in all the right ways. So
yeah, and the only thing that bothered being from Salem, I'm like, there's no waterfalls in Salem, but that's just me being weird and picky. I'm like, where is this? This Gallows Hills part? No, there's no waterfalls there. Give me a break. I mean, I think part of the fun of this show is how it breaks down the walls, and I think, in a sense, what you're saying, Tony, what you said at the beginning is correct. Because it was a Previously On. The episode was called Previously On. So it was almost like a flashback episode that you get in the middle of a 22 episode television season where you get to look at the things earlier, get cut scenes, get moments, you flash through all the movies. And I agree that a lot of this information could have been set up in other things. We get a scene that could have been at the end of Avengers Endgame with her going in and seeing the Vision's body. That scene didn't necessarily have to be there necessarily, but I did kind of like the aspect of the episode. If you're looking at everything like a different kind of TV show episode, this is like the Christmas Carol, like the Ghost of Christmas Past going through. And I agree, the actress that plays Agatha is eating scenery in Loki-like ways of awesomeness, where Thomas Hiddleston, is that his name? Where he's just like, I'm enjoying every second of this. And if it wasn't for her acting and Wanda's reaction and Wanda's acting, I think I would have felt probably a lot more. And I know what Tony's saying, he doesn't dislike it, but if we're ranking all these episodes and we go with time, I absolutely hear what you say, because these kind of episodes piss you off sometimes too. I said it was a good one, but I'm mentioning Lost. There's an episode of Lost where you build up this big storyline, you wait to this moment where all the characters face each other, and then the next episode is a flashback to how the island got founded and like the two angel and devil of the island. And then the episode after that, you get back to that moment and go, it's like, oh, I've been waiting a week and a half, because Sir Ryan in the chat I don't think this will be as bad in a rewatch, but waiting week to week again, seeing an episode like this, it's like, oh, we waited a week to just get backstory we could have gotten somewhere else. But I do think that Agatha, the real Agatha, if this isn't really Agatha and she is being influenced by her husband who says she's too easy on people, and that ends up being Nightmare and Mephisto later, I hope they keep her alive, because at times in this episode, if I'm analyzing it, it seemed like she was as much trying to help Wanda as much as she was trying to use Wanda for some information, like teaching her, like almost like my buddy slapped me, like, you don't know about this, idiot? No, this is how you do it at a casino. You go like this over the chips. You don't go like that. Like, she's educating her. Like you don't understand basic magic. You don't watch Harry Potter. Like, shut the fuck up. Do this, do that.
What's so great about that scene is you could she says herself, like, to me, the pacing was fine. Like, I like the pacing. It's just the execution of the exposition where I was like, she explains to her, I have spent years and years just trying to do basic spells on this, and you have this on autopilot. And like, it really pisses some people off sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I've spent years doing this and you can just do it naturally. So I can see her. I mean, other than choking the twins out with the magic ropes, I mean, like, I can totally see her perspective where it seems really antagonistic when we don't know the whole story yet. But
Right.
really, it's justified frustration. Like, I've been doing this shit for years and you just come along and like, what? You don't even know how you did it.
Yeah, I felt that way. You feel that way in music, and sorry, you feel that way in music and with athletic people too, where you've been working hard to do something, and they come in and they're just, like play a guitar solo like this, or dunk a ball, and you've been like working hard to just jump, and it's just you get frustrated by that. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Now, she definitely is stealing the show, and if anyone should be nominated for any type of an award, it definitely should be this actress, because she does. But I do have a feeling that they're going to kill it. Marvel likes to kill their people off, and I don't want them to, but they're known for it. Every time you get a good villain, they get rid of these villains, pretty fast. You know what I mean? They kill them off usually during that movie or something. So I don't have faith that she's going to survive this when this is all said and done, though she should survive it, even if she gets transformed to a comic book style of the old lady that she really is supposed to be, like somehow, because we see her take all the life force. And the thing I would say that it could be a punishment for her. Like she could not get the job done, and then Nightmare say, you know what, I'm going to take all this energy from you and make you old now because you didn't do the job right. For not getting it done in the end. It could be a situation like that, and that's how she becomes old. But when I look at the whole witch thing, I thought that it was a great twist that it wasn't just regular people that had her up there, that it was her own people and her own mother that had her up there. I think that was the best way to go about it, and I didn't expect them to go about it that way myself.
Do you think that, because I mean, it doesn't really explain what they were doing. It doesn't really explain anything that was going on there, but I kind of think that they were exercising her, because she kind of like, while they're blasting her with their powers, she kind of like, and it starts creeping up her neck, this like orange glow. And I could be wrong, but I think it's the orange glow that comes from that book down in the basement, because it's basically like, you are messing with shit you're not supposed to mess with. And there's almost this insinuation that it really kind of took a hold of her and possessed her in a little way. So it's kind of like it's coming up out of her, and then she ends up absorbing all their energy. But one thing that was very fascinating to me was the little crown horns that her mother gets when she basically goes Super Saiyan witch, and I kind of wonder if, I mean, obviously, Wanda is going to become the Scarlet Witch with the outfit and everything. I kind of wonder if it's not going to be that same like aura crown rather than the headpiece.
I believe when we see an image later that she sees when one of the stones gives her an image, we see almost the outline of that. So I think you might be seriously onto something there. And I thought that scene in The Witch with them doing that was great as well. And something that Agatha said there to back up your point is she had said when they were sort of attacking her for getting the book, and I agree, I think it has to do with the book. She says I love the smugness even in that moment. Everyone, she's doing it both ways, and this is where, like Tony was saying with the acting, like she's playing oh please don't hurt me, and you almost believe it. I think in that moment she is scared because she doesn't understand how powerful she is in that moment. At least that's how I read it. But she's also being smug about it. Oh, I didn't break your rules, it came to me, I didn't go to it. And there might be something to the person that influenced her. Maybe that did come to her and said, you have something in you that can get this book and unlock powers. And then that's why she noticed Wanda build the hex, because she's supposed to be on alert for crazy magic things, and kind of what we were saying earlier, where she's worked so hard to convert a moth into a bird. And Wanda can just go, Pikachu, and sneeze out of town. So
and bring this man, bring a whole Vision soul back to life, and out of her body, and the energy that was coming out of her body when she did it wasn't the regular red energy that she built. It was a whole different color. It was the yellow energy that came and brought Vision. I mean, we're jumping ahead here a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fine. We can, because you know what I mean. It's just it seemed weird that she was able to do that, and how she got herself in that bent over back position and didn't fall down. That's some like Michael Jackson lean over shit. You know what I mean? Like that's some Smooth Criminal shit. Like she did a really good job with that. I don't know how she was able to pull that off. I attempted it and busted my ass actually.
Can I ruin a little bit of your childhood here?
Yes.
So Michael Jackson on stage had these little like hooks that came up, these little screws, and he had special shoes where he would like slide into it, and him and his dancers would be able to lean forward, and
I don't believe
like they would.
I don't believe
okay.
you,
I'm
Michael
just
Jackson.
okay. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. But
people don't want to know the theater tricks. You know? You'd rather just think it's magic.
Okay, my bad.
Criminal. All
He
right.
My bad.
used his sparkly magic to do it. That's how he did it.
One thing that did like her leaning back as much as she was, that wasn't her typical, because I remember in the Age of Ultron days when she's still trying to figure out her powers, she does a lot more leaning. Like I've noticed that progression with Wanda. Like the more she's trying to, like, it's not even the strain she puts on herself. I feel like as the movies progress, she has to lean more and more. Like she would kind of lean into it more in Age of Ultron. And she even like, I mean, granted, she was tossing cars while she was doing it, like they were cotton balls. But I mean, in Civil War, when she's tossing the cars, she's using a little more strain. Whatever came out of her, and we found out it's completely involuntary. You know, it's just basically a mental breakdown, and her powers reacted to it. Like it was kind of coming out like a geyser a little bit there, because she's never leaned over quite like that. And, you know, I don't want to jump around either, but to back up what you're saying, that aura that was coming out of her, that light, that was Mind Stone yellow light. So it was pure, whatever Vision is running around right now, that's Vision to me.
So you think she had two different magics in her? We know that they said like all right. So we find out without a shadow of a doubt that she's a mutant, right? This is the first sign of a mutant inside the MCU is in this episode, because she clearly says you had this in you the whole time because you stopped the bomb.
Just to be the devil's advocate, or she could just be a witch. She could be a witch, like Agatha is a witch, like all of them. Like she had that basic witch powers. But I agree with you. I'm just arguing.
Okay. However, this is what I'm talking about with Agatha's exposition. Like, and I'm glad once they went through the doors, it's a little more like Agatha, which I love Agatha, but there were some parts where I kind of wanted to hit her because she was a little mean to Wanda while Wanda was like reliving all of her worst trauma. You know, like what was it she said after watching her parents die? She's like, so a baby witch. Yeah, she's like a baby witch with an obsession of sitcoms and years of therapy ahead of her. I'm like, she's having a bad day, you stupid bitch. Okay. But I mean, but I mean, she brought up some good points, because there was that moment when, you know, they're watching the bomb. And I said this weeks ago, the toaster was a representation of that shell that did not explode. Like, I really think the commercials are like the greatest hits of like basically her trauma.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're sitting there watching it, and Agatha hypothesized you did a probability hex. And Wanda's like, no. Like, it was just defective. We didn't know that. And I noticed that Agatha didn't argue with her too much after that, because at this point, Agatha's still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think also, let's go to the mutant thing. She's definitely a mutant. I can explain to you exactly why. I think that is. Agatha trained and learned how to be a witch. She learned how to cast spells, how to do everything. Anyone could train and learn. Doctor Strange, he was a doctor. He didn't have no ability in him. He went to a place, they taught him how to tap into the power, and that's it. There was no training for her. It was already in her. The power was in her. She was able to do that without anything. So I think that just points towards her being a mutant. I think that's what they want. They want to introduce mutants. Scarlet Witch is a very important mutant in the Marvel Universe. You know, it's Magneto's daughter.
Okay, so in the comics, one of the canonical retcons going on, so Scarlet Witch is kind of like a hereditary mantle in a way, because there is one version of the comics where Wanda and Pietro's mother, Natalia, was actually the Scarlet Witch before Wanda was. I don't remember what happened to her mother prior, but when Agatha at the end was like the Scarlet Witch, I'm like, okay, this is how they're wrapping it all up without too many retcons. Like I really, when you deal with Wanda Maximoff, it's going to be messy. You're not going to appease everybody. Everybody has an idea of what her origin story could be. And this is kind of like they're kind of seamlessly wrapping it all up so that a bunch of retcons can make sense with one another. Like, okay, we decided the Mind Stone gave her powers. Like that kind of pissed me off when I first saw it, but now I'm like, holy shit, it makes sense without retconning now, because she, like, you know, Agatha told her, so you had these powers that would have like died on the vine, as she put it, that would have just like sat there and waste, but like the Mind Stone amplified what was already in you. So that does make me wonder what the deal was with Pietro as well, because he was one of only two people, the other being Wanda, of course, that even survived coming into contact with the Mind Stone.
Yeah, and I think that if he was alive, they would say, see, he would have had that super speed already. Like there would have been some way they would have showed him do that. But I think that would give away way too much about mutants if they had him. All of a sudden, the bomb was there, then he runs and disappears.
He zips them away or something.
Yeah, it would get. So they're not going to do that. You know what I mean? They're not going to show anything like that. But I think that that's exactly what I think. The Infinity Stone just amplified the power inside of her. It brought it out of her more.
Like the recessive X gene out or something like that.
Yeah, it made her more, like she had that. She made her more powerful. Like it really made her power, made her realize she could do. Because when you look at her first powers that we only see, you know, it's really just telekinesis she uses all the time. I mean, when you really look at everything that she's done before this, her number one power is telekinesis. She's lifting objects with you know, and pulling things out. Telekinesis is really doing it with your mind. I guess we see it come out of her hands, but she's lifting stuff up. She's pushing stuff around. That's really what she's doing more than anything. We haven't seen her do any hex power or anything like that. And that's what her power is denoted in the comic books as a hex. You know, give people bad luck and things
hex
like
magic.
that.
Yeah,
well, that's basically how it first starts out. It's just basically like, kind of like, you know, Domino, the mutant Domino. Like basically her superpower is luck, but really what it is like when she's under duress, her body automatically just like do. So it just looks like luck. Like it basically helps her to survive. So if you remember the Deadpool movie, the second one, which was fucking hilarious, you know, like a dude pointing a gun at her, basically without her realizing it, her body goes under duress and then it emits these like pheromones almost that lock up the gun after that. So Wanda's magic at first was a lot like that. She just kind of used these little, like, it was like luck, you know, like her mind would go under duress and whatever hex she accidentally used would work out for her favor. I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will correct me later on. And then as she becomes more powerful, especially under the tutorship of Agatha Harkness, she really comes into herself all the way up to shit like M-Day, and she's constantly having breakdowns, which is understandable no matter what you say, Tony. I think baby girl deserves a breakdown or two.
So did you like the way they used the DVDs and everything else? And they still the DVDs, right? You like the way they, like, now you understand why it's a sitcom. That was one of the questions that was on the board, like on the storyboard. Why is it a sitcom? So this is something that, why are we showing a sitcom? Did you like the way that they used those to show why it's a sitcom?
Absolutely. I think it gave it so much more depth and emotional gravitas. You know, like this girl is literally going away inside and she's pulling on themes of her life that were actually happy before, you know, it blew up in her face. It's not funny.
No, I mean, it's hard not to laugh at it a little bit, but you're right in the sense that, like, and I think this is just a simple thing. I think everyone can relate to that moment. I think that's part of the reason why this episode got emotional. I think I at least I can't speak for other people, but anyone that's gone through a lot of shit, there's something about 80s and 70s and 50s television that when and even 2000 that you're watching it, it's your friends, you know how the episode ends, so it ends in a happy place, so you can kind of get your mind there. I know when I feel shitty, I used to put on the Brady Bunch or freaking Family Matters or freaking Full House, or, you know, some cheesy over the top show that I can put on that I know it's gonna end with some wacky "did I do that?" or something like that, and it's all going to end up happy at the end of the day, you know. So
So,
I
so
like that.
she says it. Here's the thing. She says it a couple of times in her flashbacks. She loves the Dick Van Dyke Show because she talks about how like it talks about the mischief. Like no matter what happens, everything turns out okay. Like they might be, it's good trouble, And in this mind she's created for herself, no matter what the trouble they get into, it's going to be okay. And even when they're watching Malcolm in the Middle, which that whole scene got me fucked up, fam. But I mean, like when they're watching Malcolm in the Middle, Vision and Wanda, he says, "Is it funny because he injured himself?" And
Because
she's like, "He's not injured." Yeah, and she's like, "He's not injured." He's like, "Well, how do you know?" And she's like, "Because it's not that kind of show." And so for her, she's creating this world where no matter what happens, everything will be okay. And to me, that just made it so much more sad. And it's like, wow, this girl is traumatized.
Don't you think that the Avengers, when she's a part of their team, should have realized, yo, this chick is fucked up in the head.
Yeah.
Like there's something going on. We need to get her some help. She's sitting in a room by herself, playing with an android, watching Malcolm in the Middle.
I guess the Avengers don't have a therapist on, like they don't have Deanna Troi from like the Enterprise.
Okay,
like,
well, look at the Avengers running around. Okay,
it's true.
You have,
Here's
the deal. Tony Stark. I love watching that guy on screen.
Narcissistic.
He's a megalomaniac. He's a total megalomaniac. He's not always thinking about how other people are thinking psychologically. What's on top of it, like.
Hulk is all about Black Widow right now. He's not thinking about anything else about how to
get right. That they might not necessarily know the backstory about her parents, because this is something that she said to Ultron. Her and Pietro did. What's on top of it, as far as they know, like, oh, you just lost your twin. Like they don't know, because the thing is, like, there are certain people out there that if they lost their sibling, it would be very, very sad. It would be tragic, but they'd be able to like go on with their life, versus like I am one of those people that if I lost my brother, I would lose my fucking mind, and all him and I do is bicker, but I would lose my goddamn mind. So like I get it. So I mean, it's so relative. Like pain is relative to so many people. I think they just like, plus they're all really, really messed up, so they're trying to go at it with this whole thing like, we're a family, we do this together, we pick each other up, and like Wanda was probably trying to push it off as much as she could. Like what I really like about this is it's not just about her loss of vision. It goes through the whole process of what led her to lose her mind. And Agatha even breaks it down. She's like, dead parents, dead brother, Vision is dead. And that's when she like, I'm going to cry. Like that's when she kind of breaks a little bit, like it's basically breaking down. Like this isn't just about Vision, that this has been about how messed up her life has been.
I agree that her life, she has a traumatic life. It's still, and listen, it doesn't justify it. A lot of people have traumatic lives. A lot of people go through stuff. They don't put hexes up over whole towns and reincarnate people. But I'm saying maybe she didn't know that she was going to do that. Maybe she didn't realize that she would do that. But getting before that part and everything else and all that. When we look at the I think everyone knew that Hayward was a grimy bastard, all right? And I think everyone was coming a mile away that she really didn't go in there and steal the body. That wasn't the way. How did you like the way they did that scene?
I don't know if it would have. I think the reveal wasn't as. I'm not very eloquent today, so I'm just going to use grunting. Like it wasn't as impactful, right? It wasn't as impactful because we've kind of established that Hayward is a dick. Like he straight up lied about her taking Vision's body. That shocked me, and that made me really, really angry because she was willing to let go. So that deepens my question about what exactly is Hayward after. It's like he's out to fucking get Wanda because Wanda was willing to leave it alone. And Hayward is lying to everybody else saying like, oh, she's got $3 billion vibranium running around, da-da-da. She's going to do this. And like, now, I'm not saying they don't need to rescue the town. I'm just saying Wayward is not there because he wants to rescue the town. And clearly he's not there because he wants to get Vision back because he had Vision all along.
Yeah, but he wanted to get his Vision animated. He wanted her to figure out exactly how did you do that so I can get my Vision up and running. And that's his driving force through this whole thing.
And then I think at some point he came up with the plan that fuck him. And into M Black's question, how does Haywood know she could bring Vision back to life? Because she did it within the hex. So I think he got the idea that he needed it. It's unclear at what point he got the idea that he could send a missile in there and that she would stop it and send it back out and it would be charged with her powers. Because that is ultimately what he used to get his Golem Vision to wake up. He knew, and this is the reveal that was to me, because if I'm correct, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, we got the fact that Wanda didn't steal the body in an earlier episode, so it was more seeing more details of that, or at least a hint of that from Darcy, that Wanda didn't actually take the body. So it was seeing that Hayward's plan all along was that he wanted to send the missile in there, and that's why he did it without even listening to anybody. One of his scientists whispered to him in a scene, "Oh, if she charges up the missile, then we can use her power to try to use that for charge." And I guess that was supposed to be the big reveal in that moment, more than anything, besides the vision that he set up everyone. He used Wanda's anger against her, knowing how pissed off she was, second time I'm going to use Pikachu, to fill it off with magic, to fill it up with magic, to be able to harvest the energy to bring Golem Vision alive.
That makes a lot more sense now that you're saying it, because I didn't put two and two. I guess I was too busy being sad. That, and you're just smart. But I mean, it makes a lot more sense, because
I watch a lot of TV. I'm like, Wanda. That's basically it.
He did say when she went to S.H.I.E.L.D. and she looked down there, she's like, I just want to bury him. Like, Hayward knew she had the capability, even if she didn't. Like, she didn't think that was really in her repertoire. It don't matter. Her arsenal. But I mean, it must have been 2 and 2 that he put together, which makes me wonder if Hayward is really all he seems to be at the moment, because that's some pretty archaic knowledge to know.
No, well, that's what he said when she broke the window and they pulled the guns. He's like, no, let her do what she got to do. That's why he was like, yo, no, don't pull the guns on her. Let her do, because he was hoping that she would bring him back right then, that she'd touch him and he'd come back to life. He was hoping for that. That's why he was like, let her do what she got to do. No, let her do. And then she didn't do it for him, and then she bounced, so he went back to his plan. We got to get this thing up and running. How are we getting this thing up and running? But when he did that and he heard that there was another vision inside the dome, he was like, wait a second. Somehow she got up and running. Let's figure this out. Let's go get this, and let's get this going. And if y'all check my last video I just put up today, actually.
It's a good one.
Exactly how I think it's going to end for Vision and Haywood and his fake vision and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? But he definitely, that's why he wanted her to lay them hands on her to see if she can get some type of power source going for his vision and everything else and all that.
Now, there's been a lot of really good chat, but Curtis just said he also knew that there was a rocket from their childhood, so he knew that would piss her off. So he sent in a similar rocket from their childhood. And before we get past a little bit, I do want to talk about some of the flashback scenes that we got when we got the back in the day, the Ghost of Christmas Past stuff. I thought it was interesting that in each one she was watching herself, like watching on TV, except for the one when she was a kid. I don't think there's any significance to that, except for the fact that they maybe didn't want to do the double 2 people on screen at the same time, or an interaction thing. But I thought it was interesting that when she was a kid, she actually went into like the perspective of herself as a kid. In every other situation, Agnes had her watching herself. But the actress that they cast to play I guess I've been more impressed with child actors lately, or I point them out when they're horrible, but too much. I'm mean to child actors when they're horrible. I'm like, there's a million child actors. How could they cast this horrible kid or get a different read on him? But the girl that they had playing young Wanda really elicited emotion really well. Tony mentioned the word hijinks earlier, and I wanted to scream it then. When hijinks, what are hijinks? Oh, they're silly problems, but sometimes serious. I don't know.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans. Thank you. And so I thought that was really awesome. And I think even the actor that they played, Pedro, gosh, he's loud. And in that moment when they're under there and they're looking at the bomb, that was the most emotional I got with the episode for some reason. And I thought that was the best of all the flashbacks. I mean, I think the other ones were all right, but when she said, "Oh, I don't want to go back to that place," and we saw her just touch the Mind Stone, it wasn't as, for me anyways, it wasn't as emotionally crazy watching it. it was, I wouldn't say it was underwhelming, but it was just, oh, she's touching the stone and she's getting a flash of it. But you understand for her it was, but for me watching it, it was seeing her as a kid in the family and seeing the family blow up. That was probably the most emotional. And I think to Tony's point, that was the hardest one should be last, not first, and it was the first one for me.
And she started, like in the beginning, she didn't want to walk in them, and then by the end, she was walking in herself. You know what I mean? She didn't want to go in there, and then at the end, she just kept walking. She's like, "Fucking, I'm walking in this motherfucker myself and doing this again myself." So yeah, I thought that was probably the best one with the parents and the bomb, and though it doesn't seem like she's seen her parents get blown up. I think we know that they're dead. We didn't see bodies or this is Disney though, so and everything. But yeah, I thought that they did a really a good job with that, with all the flashbacks and explaining the TV commercials. And the actors that were in the TV commercial were her parents, right? Were they the same people that played the TV commercials, the mom and dad, the same?
I don't think so.
I'd have to go back and look at that. Yeah.
No,
I thought it was the same. I thought it was the same actors that played this, because the same actors play every TV commercial. The same actors.
Yep. The same actress.
I thought that was the dad and the mom. That was his dad and the mom. I thought that's what it was. That's what it looked like to me. I have to take a look back and say, but it certainly looked that way.
They are definitely different actresses. But I can say there are certain things that I appreciate about what they're doing with appearances and accents and all that other stuff. Like they are acknowledging the fluctuation of when she uses a Sokovian accent and when she goes to American. I appreciate that. It's one of those things where it just takes like one little line, 5 seconds. I mean, it's more than 5 seconds of people that film and edit, but I mean like 5 seconds out of the 35 minutes to just address what everybody is thinking. And it's like, why does she talk with a Sokovian accent? And like, is she going to speak with an American accent moving forward? I do appreciate that they made her brunette as a kid. So they're going back to, okay, when we first met Wanda, she's a brunette, and now all of a sudden she's a redhead. Possibilities like sometimes people change their hair. Is the hair anything significant? I don't know, but I appreciate that they are addressing all these inconsistencies within the show. However, I'm 90% positive that the woman from the commercials and the mom are not the same.
We got two people that say it's not, just said no, they're not. So we'll go on the day. I thought it was. I think it should have been. I think that would have been tied up all better. But if people say no, we'll go with the no on it.
It might be a random resident of Westview. I mean, she's got everybody else trapped in, her little fantasy world. So, but I definitely, looking back and rewatching it, I definitely think all the commercials are just representations of her trauma. There's just a certain places where I can't quite pin it as much.
Oh yeah, everyone, because you had the toaster for the bomb, then you had the Hydra soap when they said in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that Hydra was using like soap to mind control people. So you have that, and that ties into a Hydra thing. What was the next one? Was the
Hydra watch.
Then there was
the paper towel watch. There was the one with the paper towel where they can't cover
that one. That one was fucked up.
Yeah, that was the most.
That
was the Avengers.
Lagos
blowing up the building. Yeah, blowing up
the building. That one, and then the last one was the shark. Yo Magic is like that's the chick trying to steal her magic. I want Yo Magic, and sucking the life force from the kid is actually what Agatha did to the people. She sucked the life force out of them and made them that. So,
or that magic can protect you, but eventually it will kill you. Or that you can if she keeps using magic to protect herself from real emotion, she'll eventually wither up and die.
Basically, magic cannot sustain you in a realistic way is the way I saw it. Like, I still think it's representation of Wanda herself in the current stage she's in. And I think it's basically this nod to like, basically magic can't sustain you. She keeps who's chatting away in there.
No, the live chat is just make it like it was the does the red hair have to do with the interaction with the stone? And for some reason I laughed because I was like, the red hair is going to make sure she's Mary Jane Watson in one of the Spider-Man stuff, because there is and at the end here, I mean, I guess we can talk about it a second, but the Spider-Man name discovery, and I heard again something about crossing over to Spider-Man, even though I don't think there's going to be any direct. And the only thing I want to mention about the Spider-Man thing, because that's a different video or discussion in our Marvel discussions, there are hexes on the board next to the name. If you look on the board that has Spider-Man,
there's like 6 of them.
There's like 6 hexes there. So I don't. And they keep mentioning that there is going to be some connection to the Spider-Man thing. So I wonder how that's going to work, because we have one episode. And I know we have a little bit more to talk about in this episode, but we have one more episode to wrap up a lot of shit.
Which is why I think it's going to be longer than 35 minutes.
Situation. That's why I think they could have eased up on this a little bit, because unless last episode is going to be an hour long, which I doubt it. Then it would be fine, kind of. You know what I mean?
Maybe there's a hidden episode 10, and we just don't know about it yet. They're gonna Wanda's gonna be like, and actually, one more episode of WandaVision, and just goes.
It's like a post finale.
Yeah, that'll be finale. I see a couple of new people in here. Everyone in here, thanks for showing up. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, people. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can, come back. We're doing all the Marvel shows. We're going to come back, Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're going to go through that. We're going to do the Loki show. Yeah. We're going to do everyone that comes out. No matter what, we'll do the What If. We'll do them all.
We should also, and I'm adding things, but we should also do a review on Spider-Man and Doctor Strange when they come out too.
Yeah, we'll continue it all. We'll do all the Marvel stuff. We'll keep the Marvel stuff going. We'll always have a live chat. We're going to try to keep it 3 o'clock on Saturdays. We're going to try to be faithful to the time. Obviously things could happen. We have to push it back or something, but we're going to try to keep it like that. All right. So going forward, more with Wandavision and everything. Where are we at in the episode? We did the Wanda. We're going to the actual creation, I guess, of the dome.
Right. I guess we have Agatha showing Wanda all her past situations. We eventually get to see how her and Vision, the last one, just to touch quickly on, and just we see the foundation of her relationship with Vision, how she basically fell in love with Vision. I don't believe we've really seen that before. So I do like how this show adds more value to previous Avengers movies by giving you more backstory or more epilogue, and I think a lot of that was there. But then, yes, by that reaction, Agatha learns everything she needs to learn, and she says, "But then, how'd you do it, Wanda? How'd you do it?" And we get to see the next reaction, which is Wanda leaves after seeing Vision. We already talked about that. Says her goodbyes to Vision after Hayward kind of baits her and is just like, "Can't you bring your lover back? Can't you bring your lover back?" Like being a total dick cheese. And then she just goes into town, sees everyone around, has some break in her mind, and then explodes and creates the town. That's the point where she.
Yeah, I like it with the fact that they call things out. Like she says, "I have a theory about this, but I'm not sure. Let's go."
But I need more.
Yeah,
she's talking to us right there.
The thing too, like I love.
She's like a YouTuber. She's a YouTuber. She's coming up theories.
I love Agatha's reaction to this, because as soon as there's that big reveal, she basically just had a mental breakdown with, reactionary powers. And then all of a sudden she's in a studio and it just shows Catherine Hahn clapping her hands. She's pissed. She's like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" And so that's when she goes on to kind of like, "I'm glad the boys are okay. I'm so glad the boys are okay." But I think we kind of knew that, because I don't think they're going to introduce them with powers if they're going to be really faithful.
No, I mean I think that they got to go away, but then they'll come back as teen Avengers so they can join, because they're gonna do the Young Avengers. I mean, and they're a part of the show, so I do think they're gonna go away, and the next time they come back, or they'll be like teenagers or something. Not this episode, because I think if you look at, there's only a couple of clips they haven't shown from the trailer yet, but the number one clip we haven't seen is Vision, Wanda saying to Vision, "This is our home, so let's fight for it." And then her taking off and flying. We haven't seen that yet. So we still have to see that "let's fight for it." So the "let's fight for it," you know what I mean? "This is our home, let's fight for it" part has to be versus Hayward and the White Vision.
Yeah, the Gollum Vision. And that's where I guess the thing we need to get into a little bit here at the end, or not, I mean, as we're running a little bit out of time, is the Quicksilver thing. Okay, so Agatha mentions to her, that Quicksilver that version of Quicksilver is her eyes and ears. That she can't do necromancy because Pedro's body's across the pond and filled with holes. So that's a non-starter. So just to rub it in a little bit. And again, the clap is like De Niro and Cape Fear in the movie theater. And what's ever say, like, ha ha ha, counselor. She's just sitting out there. She's super pissed off. But so she said that it was still unclear if she brought him there or if Wanda actually brought him there or created him like she created Vision and then Agatha took over the mind, or if Agatha just kind of created that. There's still some speculation about who he is. What do you guys think? Like,
I think she pulled him from a
multiverse?
Maybe, but I don't know if she's touched down on whether or not she can do that per se. But he had to have come from somewhere. He had to have come from somewhere, and he definitely has powers. That's the thing. Well, he has powers though, like absolutely manifested powers. So I think that even though the show hasn't really gone out of its way to throw us those breadcrumbs so far, I do think she pulled him in from the multiverse, hijacked his memories so that even he thinks, you know, he's the twin brother, influenced him a little bit, and she used him as this, I think she called it like a crystalline
possession, I believe it was.
Right. So she basically, like, he thinks he's in control, but maybe I don't know. I think that it's definitely a Pietro, but it's not Wanda's Pietro. Obviously, like, this is absolute canon that they've already, you know, but I do think going forward, he is going to be part of Wanda's story. I do think he's sticking around, and I think he helps her in the end of next episode. Like, he's on the Rambo. I think, again, to go to what I said earlier, you don't leave off in a cliffhanger like that last episode and don't get back to it. If he was just an agent of Agnes, I feel like we would have seen him in this episode with Rambo 2. Right. I don't know, but I feel like there's more to that scene if that makes well, the thing is, I think it's definitely trying to make it look like he knocked her out or she's in some sort of trouble because she got caught. He probably came along and he was like, hey, you know, it's Pietro, and any incarnation of Quicksilver is just like, he's a troll. You know, yeah. So I mean, like, but when her eyes turned purple, and it took me a hot minute to put 2 and 2 together. I did just listen to the MCU history podcast that has Chloe from Girls Gone Canon on it, and they pointed something out. Usually in Marvel, when someone is under mind control, it usually takes like a good hit to the head to knock them out of it, kind of like Clint in the first Avengers movie with Loki's spell. Yep. So, I mean, he might have been knocked out of it because Wanda kind of bitch slapped the fuck out of him.
Oh, when she like pushes him through the doors.
Yep. So, I mean, he could have been knocked out of it. And another thing that Chloe had pointed out, or maybe it was Jake, but when Monica's eyes turned purple, that could have just been her whole little power where she doesn't absorb other powers, but she kind of little bit, but she I think it was just that kind of power registering in her. Like, I don't think she was controlling it as much as she was kind of like absorbing it.
Yeah, well, what she does is she's able to become that energy. So whatever energy, if there's electricity, she could become electricity. If there's radiation,
so it's rogue with gamma rays.
Could she become Wanda's powers? Could she like reflect the energy?
It's just the energy she could become. Like she could, like, you know, like in the comic books, they always show it like she'll become electricity and go inside of the telephone line.
So could Wanda shoot her powers at her and she could like block it and like reflect it back or something?
It takes her, like, she has to know what the energy is in order to convert her body. You could, like, her body turns into that living energy. That's basically what, like, she could turn into light and travel at the speed of light.
So that explains why the first time Wanda pushed her off, she like bitch slapped her in the Timbuktu. But the second time, Monica was able to be like, we're not doing this again, and then superhero landed.
You learned. Looks like you learned something. I forgot what movie that's from. I do want to say one thing. I know we have a super chat too, but because I do want to mention, Nadia says I think it was an epic troll by Marvel with Evan Peters, and you could also say, and I'm sure we'll mention this in a second, the White Vision thing is an epic troll by Paul Bettany, and I think we might have even mentioned this in passing. It could be this in last week, but the actor that he's always wanted to work with is himself. is he's going
I'd
to
be
be working.
so mad. I'd be so
I
mad.
think that's what it is. I think it's really what it is.
Well, the thing is this. Thank you for the super chat, Jenna S. We truly, truly appreciate it.
I'd be mad too, but it's fun.
And I would say that somehow it has to tie into the multiverse of madness. So we have to. White Vision is not the tie-in. You know what I mean? That's not the tie-in. It has to be something else that's going to tie it in. So there's someone else is coming. I just don't, listen, Mephisto's, it's out. It's not going to happen. Even if they did name drop him, they're not going to show him yet. They're not ready for that.
We might hear a voice. We might hear a voice go, "What, Agnes, you have failed me," and then she withers away or something.
Yeah,
I think they've alluded to him already. Whatever it was going on with that book or whatever, I think they were trying to exorcise her. Whatever they were trying to get up out of her body, that was Mephisto. It's just like not going to be established as Mephisto for a couple of canonical.
This is nightmare. I think this is not, because I think Mephisto is the Avengers villain for everyone, because he's going to mess up with Spider-Man. He's going to mess with Doctor Strange. He'll be in all of those. And Nightmare is the Doctor Strange villain that he's going to deal with. So thank you again for another super chat from Jen S. Says only Wanda is a nexus, so they could explain not looking the same because only she is looking the same. Yeah, I think that I don't think that she can really go in between multiverses. I don't think that she has that power to do that. I think Wanda is the key to go in between multiverses. So I think it could have just been a huge troll to bring in the actor that played Quicksilver just to play this
wink,
part.
A big fuck you wink
to do it.
As a preview that in a couple of generations down the line, they're going to be bringing the X-Men into this universe. And someone said it in the chat earlier that passed by that they set up this with Wanda's powers. And like you were saying, shows she has the X gene. I was hinting that maybe it could just show that she had young witch powers. But they're setting it up in an open-ended way. So they could, depending on how they want to weave in X-Men, they could send it in a lot of different directions. So I think there's also elements of leaving it open and being smart. I think that's one of this creative team, Kevin Feige's talents, is setting these breadcrumbs and knowing that what we saw in the first couple of phases. I think they're definitely, I talked about before, like poker tell. So someone knows your poker tell, you know that they know that you know, so you have to use those things strategically in the right moments. And I tend to think what Tony, I think this is in another episode, and I think Evan Peters and all of that is X-Men sooner rather than later, but I don't know if that's more want within me than what I'm really seeing. Like I'm seeing what I want to see. I'm Horseshack testing this whole series to be like Magneto showing up. I'm still convinced of it. I'm holding on to, I'm going to die on that. I'm going to die on that vine right now until Magneto or Spider-Man doesn't show up.
She needs Patrick Stewart. She needs Professor X. All the mental damage she's been, that's
she needs Gene. Yeah.
That's what Professor X does for everyone. He goes in the mind. He's a psychiatrist. He unlocks stuff. He makes you feel better and everything else. That's his job. She needs him. I think they need to bring his ass into the show before it's all said and done, but it's looking like it's not going to be. All I see right now, in all honesty, is I see Doctor Strange.
Yeah, a post-credit Doctor Strange. And it might even be post-credit. It might be Wanda handles this problem herself with Rambo and Quicksilver's help, and then Strange shows up at the last minute like I was watching and you didn't need my help, but come with me, I need yours. I don't think it's exactly going to be, but it could be as simple as something like that, where he's been watching and she's reached the point where Strange can actually use her and train her a little bit, and maybe bring Agnes as well. You're going to be beneficial in the wars to come.
Yeah, the fact that they started doing post-credit scenes means that there's going to be one, right? They wouldn't just start bringing them up at the end unless there's always going to be one until the end. You know what I mean? They didn't do that every episode. Go ahead, Alicia. I'm sorry.
The thing is, Agnes, Agatha, whatever, she's the villain within the Hex, where Hayward is the villain externally from the Hex. And I do love it because it has like very dark, brooding Lord cover of everybody wants to rule the world. Like Wanda's powers wouldn't be a big deal if there weren't a few different clusterfuck of villainy going on around her. If there was only one established villain, I would be very underwhelmed by her powers because it would feel like even subconsciously not a big deal to me. But I do think that Wanda will get to a point where she realizes the hex needs to come down, and that's going to be devastating. But I don't think we're just going to end it there, because Hayward is still an external threat. He still needs to be dealt with outside of the hex, which is why I think like there's no way this next episode is just going to be like 30 minutes long. There's just too much going on. However, I do think that Wanda's kind of going to put herself on this societal timeout. She's probably going to go, and I think that Doctor Strange will more like seek her out and show up somewhere and just basically be like, I can help you control it. If you basically like a rebuff on when Clint tells her, like, you can either sit on your ass and feel sorry for yourself, or you can do something about it. So I think she will get to a point where she wants to control it, but she's probably going to exile herself somewhere for a hot minute, and then Doctor Strange will come to her.
Well, if you watch my last video, I explained exactly how I believe it's going to end with Hayward.
I will watch it. I will watch it.
I put that out there. Thank you. Another super chat from Jenna. And thank you so much. She's so nice. Yeah, it says Earth's had no Sorcerer Supreme for 5 years. I wonder if Agatha's filling in anti-hero style while Strange was gone. He's been back for like 2 weeks. Good point. It could be a situation like that. I never thought of anything like that.
That is an absolute good point about Strange. Or is maybe it's that sort of crossover thing. Oh God, I was flashing on something about all of this, but I don't know. I think Jimmy Woo's still out there with Monica's sword. They're coming in. I don't know. I lost my train of thought for a second.
Yeah, Jimmy Woo's outside. Monica's inside. Monica's in. Quicksilver's in. Jimmy Woo is still outside, and Hayward is outside. But somehow the Vision, I guess he's going to be able to pass through this barrier. But why wouldn't he? Is he going to be able to phase through the barrier? Because he'll get turned into something. So maybe he's just got to phase through.
Yeah, and my question was, I remember what my question was. It was going to be to you guys, because you guys both know more about the Marvel historical universe and stuff with this Gollum Vision thing. Would it be possible that the conclusion of all of this is Wanda somehow taking the consciousness from the Vision that's inside the hex and projecting it into Hayward's Gollum body there, and that we get real Vision, or a version of real Vision at the end of all of this, with some of his consciousness in Hayward's body here? Does that
I don't know.
Eventually?
It could be, but I think they've established his corporal form, like his spirit is gone, because she says, because she says when she puts her hand over it, I can't feel you. However, they can do, I think White Vision is going, can we call it Mayo Vision, please?
Yeah.
Anyway, so White Vision is going Hellman's Vision. He's going to be able to go through the hex because he's powered up by the same power that is keeping the hex going. I think she probably would be able to revive Vision, which it's kind of hinting towards she does have necromantic abilities. Necromancy powers. Like I think she does have it, and I think the reason she's able to revive him is because her same powers destroyed him to begin with the first time, and then there was that time anyway. But I mean, I think she has the power there, and I think it's why they showed that yellow light reconstructing him and not just the red light, because I think they do eventually want to make it legit. However, I don't know if the corporal form and his consciousness are going to be able to fuse together per se, but it would make sense to me. It's not beyond the realm of possibilities with everything else going on in the series.
I'm going to just point everyone to my video that I wrote. Answer all that. I'm not going to answer it now because you heard me answering that video now.
Please, you want to hear Tony's take on this? I'll hype for you. You want to hear Tony's take on this? Check out the video that he posted.
Go ahead. and then you'll hear everything. I'm not going to.
You got to work for your bread, I guess.
I guess an overall question. Tony doesn't have to.
You got another super chat real quick from Jenna. She says, "Hell phase into Mayo Vision and get hit with photon beams, Wanda's magic, and merge." And that. There's something's going to happen there.
Something's going to happen, and that kind of leads to my question. It was great, and thank you so much, Jennifer. And yes, Hellman's Vision, Matt. Does a version of Vision survive this series? Is the Vision going to be in Doctor Strange or Spider-Man or something like that, or is this the last Vision we see for a long time?
I don't know, because usually when never mind, because they killed off Quicksilver. So I don't know.
They like to kill people in Marvel, but
Yeah.
I think they have a bunch of new people coming into Phase. But I think he may be. I'm not going to see the goddamn video.
Yeah, this wasn't for you. I'm sorry.
And
This is a question for Alicia in the chat.
About it, but that's all I have to say. But they do like to kill people, and I could see them doing something with him, and then just him not being in the next phase, and maybe coming back a phase after, or something like that. Could be a Drogon minute. A Drogon man just fly off somewhere, and then if they need him, he comes back or something like that.
Jenna says he's going to go off Red Skull style, maybe guard the multiverse, maybe be the new Guardian of the Stone or something like that.
That was so. I know we're getting way off.
Why was it the Red Skull?
That was so anticlimactic. Like, he just fucks off for God knows how long, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Welcome, welcome. I'm stuck here." Yeah,
I've been stuck here all this time,
Mr. Anderson.
I have been punished for my greed, and then Black Widow.
He deserves better because he's a better villain than Baron Zemo. And if you're going to give Baron Zemo all this run, Red Skull deserved a better run.
Now, Tony, I know we're separating cups, but do you think Red Skull gets brought back into this in a Secret Wars thing? Like that'll bring Red Skull back into the universe when they do the villains against the heroes. Red Skull will be one of them with Dr. Doom.
I don't think he's going to bring him back. I think Red Skull's done.
It's a shame. He's such a good villain. He is.
But hopefully they do Dr. Doom right, because he's the greatest villain of them all. So
isn't he the one that originally summons Mephisto into the universe that they're speaking of? I know we only have so long, but it's related to I do think there's some devilry going on here, and I feel like Jeff Brendan Beefish when I say that. But I mean, like, there is, and I got it off, like, someone pointed it out to me. Chloe from Girls Gone Canon pointed it out. She noticed that there is a, like, is it behind, the Black Goat, the Church of Satan?
Yep.
Yeah, so I believe he's an actual character in the MCU, isn't he? Like, he's like the son of Satan. I feel like they're definitely going with the whole, I'm sorry, China, but they're going to go with the whole hell demon thing. They already put the Church of Satan statue in there. They're going for it. But yeah, sorry.
They don't care about the Chinese market, then they can do it. But if they do, then they can't do it. That's so it all comes down to that.
Or it's just imagery for the comic fans to be able to pick that up, but they won't actually go there for a full-fledged situation, but they will put enough droplets in there so that people that know it, like yourself, can look at it and go, "Oh, okay, they know." It almost makes it okay. And to an overall point, I guess my conclusion of everything is what you were saying earlier. What's awesome about Marvel being the ones making Marvel movies is that they can take a look at all the different canons, all different universe things, and for what the movie, television, cinematic universe is, they can pick and choose, make their choices, and they don't really have to explain too much. Like whereas if Fox buys a Marvel property, you're like, why'd they decide to give Spider-Man organic web shooters? That sucks. They did that so they wouldn't have to make him a scientist. And it's stupid. It's not for like Marvel interesting reasons that you amalgamate some characters or do this or make a choice. I think the reason why Marvel adapting their own properties make choices or always makes sense why they change stuff for better for a TV audience, better for a modern time. Even what they did in Iron Man 3 with what do you call it? The main villain in that, and doing the switcherooski on that one, with it being, I'm blanking on this name, but
the friends we made along the way.
They switch it up. They can really mess with you in a way that other properties can't if they're not messing with their own thing, So I like that Marvel's making Marvel movies.
Is it sad that like Iron Man, I just watched it the other night, but Iron Man is like so incredible to me that I don't even remember who the villain was.
Yeah, it was Ben whatever Mandarin. Thank you, Jenna S. The Mandarin character.
Guy Pearce. Yeah.
Yeah, they set him up
really bad teeth.
They set him up to be like a big villain, and then he ends up just being
then they bring him back for the Shang-Chi. They bring the real Mandarin.
Yeah, they bring the real Mandarin in. And everyone's sharing Tony's video in the live chat. Make sure Mara's doing that if you haven't already. Click on that to hear Tony's thoughts on the last couple of things that we talked about.
Exactly. All right, we're wrapping this up right now. So, what are we gonna see next episode? Give me the big prediction. The one prediction. Give me one big one that we're gonna see next episode. Obviously, we know they're gonna fight. Give me something big. Give me what you think it's gonna be. What is it?
Agatha's gonna take off with the kids.
All right.
I'm dying on this tree that we're gonna find out that it is X-Men Fox Universe Evan Peters Quicksilver.
I really hope so.
Yeah. That one,
I think I think that is a definite. I still think at one point we are convinced of that without a shadow of a doubt, or at least enough vagary. I think Doctor Strange isn't big enough, and we know there's going to be some sort of Spider-Man crossover. So I would say the big huge thing is going to be coming out of this is going to be it is a multiverse.
You know, I hope so, because you know a lot of people that it's starting to look like it's not going to be. You know,
I know
it's starting to look like it's not going to be like this. Going to be the post credits scene of Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
I really starting to think that it's going to be that, but I think she's going to be able. Her and Vision are going to be able to handle these people by themselves. You know what I mean?
Mark Hamill's going to be Nightmare. I like that one, Matt Spruce. Mark Hamill's going to show up.
I keep hearing that Mark Hamill's Nightmare. I mean, he could do the voices. There's no doubt about it. He can do the voice, but I think that's also a CGI character too. That's going to be heavily CGI. So it's hard for me to see them. Unless they spent all that money on that budget just for this last quick shot of him and stuff, you know, doing that exactly right.
That would be amazing if it was like the final shot of this was the same as the final shot with the spoiler alert of the Mandalorian, where we get the CG Luke Skywalker. It's both two different CG versions of Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a solution to that. Just cast Sebastian Stan.
How do they not do that in the Mandalorian? I don't want to get in the Mandalorian, but how do they not cast him?
I mean, he already has a good deal with Disney Plus going, I guess.
Yeah, and he
Winter Soldier and Falcon.
He looks so much like him too, and Mark Hamill approved it. I hope if they bring Luke back in any fashion in the universe, and they want him to do more, they have him, who we'll be talking about 2 weeks from or 3 weeks from tonight on the Falcon and Winter Soldier first episode of our Marvel discussion.
Yeah.
And I have already been told by Tony to behave myself when Bucky comes on screen.
All right. We're giving our predictions and everything. Oh, I think I need.
You didn't give yours.
I think Doctor Strange shows up in the post-credit scene. That's what I think it's going to be. I'm down on it. I don't think he's going to show up before. I think it's just going to be a quick one, and it's going to be over. All right. Thank you again for everyone joining us in the chat. Now, obviously, thank both of y'all for joining me here. We'll be back here
one more
next week for one more, the finale. I can't wait for it's like I don't want Monday to come around because I gotta go back to work, but I really want to watch this thing.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. Jenna's with you in the chat, Alicia. You and I can thirst in the corner.
I very thirsty. I've got this big old 50 ounce. Yep.
All right,
I missed Monica Rambeau a great deal this week. I'll say that.
I did too. God damn it. And I
just
love
absolute macaroni in a pot thirst.
No doubt. All right. If you like the way it is, please thumbs up and spread this across the realm, and please subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace.